There are war heroes all among us. Most are rewarded for their resilience and leadership, but some are more documented than others, with those involved going above and beyond and performing incredible feats during time of battle. Before getting started, I would like to thank Twist TV for working on this video with me. We both had a lot of fun researching this amazing topic and hope you enjoy. The longest sniper kill. In November 2009, Craig Harrison, a corporal of horse sniper, killed 2 militant assassins from a range of 2,475 meters, more than 900 meters longer than his rifle's effective range. Craig Harrison was stationed in the Helmand province of Afghanistan when he took the shot and was part of a 3 armoured car vehicle patrol when the soldiers in front of him were ambushed by Taliban. His friends on foot patrol ahead were stuck in a galley and fighting for their lives as enemy machine guns rained bullets down on them. Harrison knew the enemy was outside of his rifle's effective range and calculated it would take 6 seconds for the bullet to reach the machine gunner. He thought the shot was impossible but felt time was running out and he had to do something. The first shot missed, but he kept firing, and seconds later the gunner slumped to the ground fatally wounded. Harrison took another shot at the lookout who by now had taken over the machine gun. He missed, but the next shot he took him out as well. 2 men killed at a range of 1.5 miles or 2.4 kilometers. A truly incredible feat which saved the lives of 8 men. It took a while for people and even Chris to realize he was the record holder for the world's furthest sniper kill. But despite being hailed as a war hero, there was an error by military chiefs that led to his name being released, putting Chris and his family's life in serious danger as he was now the Taliban's #1 target. But this wasn't his only battle. Harrison started to suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder and was denied the military cross for his bravery as his colonel believed he wouldn't be able to handle the pressure and media attention that goes with the award. After a suicide attempt, Harrison left the army and started a career making equipment for other snipers, and went on to write a book called The Longest Kill. In it he describes how post-traumatic stress disorder made every day a nightmare, as his mind relived every person he had killed during the war. Craig Harrison saved the lives of 8 soldiers that day, and is still the current record holder for the world's longest sniper kill. The Tiananmen Square Tank Man. There's one image that probably all of us have seen at least once, and the origin of that image begins on June 3rd, 1989, when several hundred civilians were shot dead by the Chinese military in an attempt to suppress a democratic protest. The demonstrators had occupied Tiananmen Square for several weeks, refusing to move until there was a democratic reform, and after several attempts to move them, the military took drastic action. The unarmed victims, who were mainly students, were randomly fired at from all angles, giving them little chance to escape. The day after the massacre, as the tanks rolled in again, the so-called Tank Man took brave action, and this iconic image and video of the unknown man who tried to block the path of dozens of tanks in Tiananmen Square was taken. In the video you can see the lead tank moving back and forth trying to avoid him, but he keeps moving to block their path. He even climbs onto the tank and appears to reason with the soldiers inside before he is eventually led away by men. The identity of him is unknown, but this image is the ultimate act of defiance from a lone man who at that moment in time felt compelled to stand in front of a 60-ton tank. With the military killing hundreds the day before, he must have known he could have been killed at any moment, but it seems the stand he was making was more important at that time than his own life. But what happened to him? Over 20 years later, he has never revealed himself or spoken about the incident, but speculations continue to circulate about his fate. Was he one of the thousands of Chinese nationals who were imprisoned for their involvement in the protest? Some of them were locked up for their entire lives and others were executed. All we can say is that the photograph has gone down in history and shows an ultimate act of bravery by the unknown tank man, who to the Chinese community is their unknown hero. Mad Jack Churchill. Lieutenant Colonel Jack Churchill is one of the most impressive commando leaders of World War II. He was born in Surrey on September 16, 1906. 20 years later, he was commissioned into the Manchester Regiment and joined the 2nd Battalion in Rangoon. Shortly after, he moved from Rangoon to Maimyo, where he engaged in flag marches. This involved travelling up and down Irrawaddy by boat, visiting villages and trying to deter anyone he thought was contemplating robbery or murder. Whilst at Maimyo, Churchill learned how to play the bagpipes and became an expert player, which would add to his Mad Jack nickname. In 1936, he became bored with military life and retired after 10 years service. But with the outbreak of the war in 1939, Churchill was recalled back and was stationed in France. Usually, he took his bow and arrow with him and frequently used this on patrols against the Germans, and his accuracy with it and its silence made him a lethal weapon. During one battle, Churchill fought with 2 machine guns and his good old bow and arrow, freeing his surviving company through the German lines back to the brigade HQ. He then returned to England as he had a bullet in his shoulder, which remained there for the rest of his life. He then went on to join the commandos who were commissioned to blow up a local fish oil factory in Norway. Churchill led his men with silver buttons on his uniform, carrying his bow and arrow and a broad-hilted claymore sword, playing the bagpipes. Churchill was again wounded, but the operation was a success. The once again recovering Churchill then went on to lead his commandos through Sicily, landing in Salerno and capturing a village and 42 men. He was then appointed to 2 further missions. The second one saw him playing his bagpipes in a night attack on the island of Brac, where he was again wounded and this time captured. The Germans wrongly thought Churchill must be a relation to the then Prime Minister Winston Churchill, so he was imprisoned in the Sachsenhausen camp near Berlin. Amazingly, Churchill tunnelled his way out of the camp, but was quickly recaptured and transferred to a camp in Austria. Again, he escaped and walked across the Alps to safety. Churchill was then sent to India to prepare for the invasion of Japan, but the war ended much to his regret, as he said he wanted to be killed in battle and buried in the Union flag. Him charging up beaches, often dressed in a kilt with his bow and arrow at moments of extreme peril, won him admiration and devotion from those under his command. He was awarded 2 DSOs and a military cross for his unorthodox approach that also earned him the nickname Mad Jack. He died aged 89 in 1996, but Mad Jack Churchill should never be forgotten. The Real Lone Survivor. In 2013, you may remember the release of an American war film called The Lone Survivor. It was a huge success and grossed over $140 million in box office revenue. But when watching a film like that, it's easy to forget that those events actually happened, but they did and were based on the failed US Navy SEALs counter-insurgent mission, Operation Red Wings. It all started on June the 28th, 2005, when a covert Navy SEAL mission in Afghanistan went terribly wrong, and resulted in the loss of 19 American troops, with only 1 out of the 19 incredibly brave SEALs surviving. His name was Marcus Luttrell. Luttrell and 3 of his comrades were lowered down by helicopter into the desolate war zone in the mountains of northeastern Afghanistan. The elite 4-man team was searching for Ahmed Shah, a Taliban leader. After hiking through extreme conditions for hours, the 4 men burrowed themselves behind rocks, looking over Ahmed's suspected location. Then, from nowhere, a turbaned man appeared in front of Luttrell. The SEALs had been rumbled, but not by enemy forces, but by a local goat herder who had 100 or so goats with bells around their necks. Unable to contact radio headquarters for advice, the SEALs had to make a decision on what to do with the now 3 herders. They decided to let them go, knowing this could be disastrous, but thinking they had no other choice, as they were innocent civilians, or so they thought. The mission was now compromised, but the SEALs carried on moving to a defensive position. Barely an hour after releasing the herders, dozens of Taliban emerged with AK-47 fire, grenades and mortars. The SEALs desperately tried to flee, jumping hundreds of feet down a mountain, and Luttrell shattered 3 vertebrae. His colleague Dietz was shot multiple times, but bravely kept shooting at the enemy to protect his unit. As Luttrell helped his wounded colleague, a bullet shot Dietz in the back of the head, and he died in Luttrell's arms. The remaining men knew they needed backup, but with no signal, their badly injured team leader, Murphy, further compromised his safety by moving to an exposed area to get signal. He managed to get through, but was shot in the back whilst making the call. He also tried to fight on, but died from his wounds. It was just Luttrell and Axelson left. They both hauled themselves up, but Axelson was badly wounded. Then a rocket-propelled grenade blasted the 2 SEALs, and sadly Luttrell never saw Axelson again. Alerted by Murphy's call, 2 Chinook helicopters arrived, but as the troops prepared to discharge, an RPG hit the helicopter, killing 8 SEALs and 8 Army Night Stalkers. It was now presumed that everyone was dead, but miraculously Luttrell was still alive. Despite bullet wounds, a broken back, and shrapnel and rocks protruding from his legs, Luttrell crawled 7 miles through the mountains, killing Taliban on the way with his rifle and grenades, until he finally found a waterfall. Whilst drinking, he again found himself surrounded by local men. He was prepared to fight, but they were not Taliban. They hid and cared for the wounded Luttrell for 4 days, when finally one of the locals travelled to a marine outpost with a note from Marcus. A search and rescue operation was launched and the missing man was brought home. Luttrell received the Navy Cross, the same honour was awarded to Axelson, Dietz, and Murphy received the Medal of Honour, America's highest award. Although Luttrell survived his ordeal, he has struggled with survivor's guilt, post-traumatic stress, and has said that he died on that mountain too and left part of himself up there. Marcus and his 3 companions fought through unbearable conditions that are impossible to comprehend, and how they managed to keep their composure and keep fighting is nothing short of an incredibly brave feat. Warrior. It's been said that World War I could not have been fought if not for the horses, and the story of Warrior is like none other. Although the popular film and book War Horse is not based on Warrior, it's very similar to the bravery he endured during the war. Warrior was born on the Isle of Wight and was partnered with General Jack Seeley at the Battle of Mons. It didn't take long for Seeley to become amazed by Warrior's bravery as they fought countless battles together. Warrior's loyalty to General Seeley was incredibly strong, and he would follow him around everywhere. Despite millions of horses being killed during World War I, either from battle, hunger, illness, or being exposed to the elements, Warrior survived it all. He would tank through the dead men and horses that littered the battlefield, staying strong and loyal to his rider the whole way. He fought through freezing temperatures and boiling hot sunny days, and survived many near-death experiences. He was almost killed by a sniper, and the stable he was housed in was hit by a bomb, but Warrior miraculously scrambled out of the rubble. General Jack Seeley once said this about his loyal companion: "His escapes were quite wonderful. Again and again he survived when death seemed certain, and indeed befell all his neighbours. It was not all hazard, sometimes it was due to his intelligence. I have seen him, even when a shell has burst within a few feet, stand still without a tremor, just turn his head unconcerned and look at the smoke of the burst." After the war, Warrior took part in the Hyde Park London Canadian Cavalry Parade, and returned to the Isle of Wight to be cared for by General Seeley. He lived until the age of 33, and in September 2014, 100 years after Warrior went to war on the Western Front, he was awarded the PDSA Dickin Medal, recognised as the Animal's Victorian Cross, and honouring all of the animals that served in the Great War. Warrior's bravery and loyalty was truly incredible, and his legacy continues to live. And as well as the red poppy that is a symbol of remembrance for the soldiers who died during the war, don't forget to pick up the often forgotten purple poppy to also remember Warrior and all the other animals of war. So that's 5 incredible feats during battle. A big thank you to Twist TV for helping out and editing this video. We loved making it and hope you enjoyed, so go check out his channel. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.